You wonder if any animals come to the tent, and he's busy shaking his head at a car over there. He hasn't really seen us. Hello, big boy. So there's a lot of noise. I just saw Graham walk past. He hasn't spotted us yet. He might be able to hear us, but it's a young bull, so don't worry. If he gets out of hand, I'll teach him a lesson. So I'm really hoping he's going to feed towards us. So we're going to get into a position, so as if we were on bushwalk, where he could come right towards us. And isn't this exciting? See, guys, I don't even need to go out of the tent to find a big 5 animal. You know, he's just gone behind this thicket here. Remember, #Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV. You can hear him feeding. So he is coming closer. So what we're going to do is we're going to move closer to the tent. So if he does come closer, we can hide in the tent, and hopefully he comes to visit us. Oh, let me cable bash for you there, Brian. Okay. Here we go. So I think he can hear us. And the nice thing about these young elephant bulls, I'm failing at my cable bashing. Nice thing about these young elephant bulls is if they can hear something, they're sometimes quite curious. So he's only about 50 meters. Look, he's going to come out right here. Hello, little man. Now, I'm talking on purpose so he can hear me. I don't want him to suddenly get a fright. So you can see his ears are open. I'm watching his body language. Can't smell. He doesn't smell like he's in must, and the wind is coming to us. But so, especially with single elephant bulls, it's very important, I find, in a lot of cases, to actually let animals know you're here. So sneaking up on them, if the wind's in your favor and stuff, it's great. Now the wind is in our favor, but of course we're sedimentary here. We can't run around and move out of his way. So I'd much rather him know that I'm here. I'm talking in a nice even tone, and you can see he's completely relaxed with us. And what is that? 40 meters, Brian?
Yeah.
So hello, big boy. Now, I just want him to know that we're here. Now, what might happen is once he's finished feeding there, he might still be a bit more curious. So he might actually come up to investigate me a bit further. And the most important thing is, of course, we can't run away. We can't go anywhere. So it would be to stand my ground. He might lift his ears at us, but don't worry. I'm good at dealing with teenagers. Well, he's probably about 20. Hey, mister. But at the moment, he's completely aware we're here. I'm not standing out. I'm standing right in the open. I'm not trying to hide. I want him to know we're here. I don't want him to get a fright or a surprise at close range. And as you can see, he's decided that it's all very chilled, and he's going to keep on eating. Now, it has to be one of my favorite things in the world is elephants on foot, and particular elephant bulls. You can get a lot closer to them. They're a lot more relaxed, and they're a lot less aggressive than elephant cows. Of course, they don't have babies and whatnot to defend. Hey, mister. Now, this looks like it could be the same elephant Jamie started out with at the beginning of the safari, that single young bull. And this morning, they said an elephant was coming. It never got here, but this one just arrived out of nowhere. So again, we're looking very carefully at his behavior. So Diana says maybe he smells the rulers in the tent. Well, Diana, there's a lot more marulas out there that he'll be able to smell. Look, now he's coming right out into the open. Hey, you. Now, he might lift his head and shake his head at us. But again, if this was a breeding herd or even a single cow, I would have really moved Brian and myself back into the tent and would have maybe shouted just to let her know that I'm serious. But with an elephant bull, I mean, look at this. He's now even closer, 30 meters. Oh, they're so special. It's used to it. It generally will back out. It's not sure. Now, for example, I've seen elephants run away from Steenbok. It was a rabid Steenbok, so they might have been able to pick up on the rabies. But the fact that Steenbok was trying to chase and bite a 7-ton elephant bull, he got out of there. I think it's a bit of both. I think that different behavior was immediately picked up. Oh, look, it looks like he's coming closer. So again, I'm watching his body language. I'm just going to make sure I'm between Brian and the elephant. Hello, mister. No. See, he's lifting his head a little bit. He's letting us know he's here. He's letting us know he's big. He's no. Don't be naughty. There we go. So now he looked like he might give us a little bit, Stop it. Yes, I don't want to fight with you, but you're more than welcome to feed next to us. Yes, now you look sheepish. Go feed on the tree. So now immediately his tail sticks out a little bit. But there we go. A lot of you are wondering how to deal with an elephant. There we go. Very, very easily done. Now, of course, every situation is different. And please do not try this unless you have lots of experience. Now, my first elephant encounter on foot, it was my first memory at 2 years. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing, and I got a hiding from my father afterwards. But since then, I've spent thousands of hours with elephants on foot, all over Africa, in rainforests, in, watch your feet, Ryan, yeah, in rainforests and savannas and semi-deserts and rivers, on boats, on foot, on cars. So, there we go. I just want him to relax a bit. I think he will come back. He's just now fed there. We just didn't want him to get a little bit cheeky. So, in a lot of cases, and I'm could get myself in trouble here. So, it's very easy to have a very exciting elephant encounter on foot. So I could have let that situation go till he was in 5 meters of me before I clapped. And the amount of danger and everything would have been exactly the same. But of course, it's when you take those silly chances and you lose the respect for those animals that bad things happen. So in this circumstance, I'd rather 15, 20 meters, great. But if he'd walked in feeding, I wouldn't have done anything. But the fact he was like, okay, I'm big, I'm tough, stop it before it becomes a potentially dangerous situation is the trick. Now, as of course, on bushwalk, we probably would have moved out of that situation before we had to do that. But because we're in the tent, he was always going to come here. He was always curious from the sound. So I'd rather face him when I'm outside and have some space and stuff, and he has some space to deal with, rather than trying to chase him from inside a tent where I've got blocked sight and whatnot. Let's just have a quick look. Now, he has stopped right here. We just can't see him. So he's stopped. He's still about 30 meters. You can just see the trees moving where he's feeding. You can see his tail. There we go. So he's no further than he was. You see him? Just see his tail there. Now he still might come closer to him, but we've both now established we've established between him and I what my personal distance is, and he probably isn't going to come within that close sort of 15-20 meter range again, and he'll stay around our peripheries. But wasn't that exciting? But let's go back to Tristan and those wet and sopping and totally miserable looking Tristan and Nkuhumas.
Thanks very much, Brent. I'm glad you think that I look miserable. It's very, very kind of you. I'm not so sure I agree so much, but it's very pleasant actually being out here. Biam and I have found ourselves a perfect spot, and that's why we're sitting with the lions. Is we're not getting rained on too much. We're in the cover of a nice grove of trees, as you can see around us, and so it's very pleasant here. We're quite dry, and there's not too much rain coming into the vehicle, so quite nice. The lions, on the other hand, are having a thoroughly miserable time of it. They're sitting in the middle of the rain, so not nearly as comfortable for them as it is for us. But what they have done is very little. In the last few minutes, we've had not too much movement at all. In fact, everybody's been fast asleep. This is the most movement we've had since you were last with us. I believe Brent was having a good time with the elephant as well. So hopefully our lions are going to start being like the elephants today, with Jamie having quite active elephants and Brent having active elephant. It would be nice if our lions decided to be a little bit more active too and started to get up and move a little bit. Now, Brent was being very boastful and saying that he's so good he doesn't even need to leave the tent to find a member of the Big Five. Well, Brent, Jamie found elephants and I found lions, so we beat you to the punch. So the only way you're going to redeem yourself is if you actually find us a leopard, and I don't think that that's going to happen, so we'll see though. But there's the challenge. See if you can find us a leopard from the tent, then I will bow to your ever so delightful ego that you have going at the moment. Now, this little cub, I think, can't get any cleaner than it is already. It's cleaned itself thoroughly this afternoon. It's been spending the whole afternoon just licking itself, and I wonder if it's just the rain, the novelty of being wet, and then getting rid of all that drops of water that are falling on it. And ultimately, I suppose every few minutes they're getting wet, so even though they've groomed a lot of water off, there's still some that's going to be collecting on their fur. Now, so Katie, you're wondering, do lions on their own or lion coalitions hunt by themselves? Well, yes, they do. So the Birmingham males, which is the male coalition that we see in this area, are very effective hunters by themselves. In fact, I saw when there were still 5 of them, about a year and a half ago. Sorry, you were saying if it's just a lion by itself with no pride or coalition, will they still hunt? Yes, they will. I have seen lone lionesses bring down impalas before. I've seen them bring down bushbuck and wildebeest, even zebra. So they do hunt by themselves. I've seen male lions by themselves bringing down quite large animals like buffalo. So they do, if the opportunity is there and they can see that they can get something, they will take it. So it does sometimes happen without prides or without coalition members. But it's obviously a lot easier if you've got a coalition member or a pride member helping you, especially now in the summer months when the animals become a lot stronger with all the food that's around. Most of the prey animals have become much healthier and stronger and fitter, and so for the lions it becomes a little bit harder to bring them down. In the winter months when they get a little bit weaker, then you find that those lone animals are able to bring down prey animals very, very easy. So at the moment, though, it will be a very hard process. And we saw that with the other 2 Nkuhuma females. Brent had them last week, and they were looking very skinny, and they tried to hunt all kinds of things. I know he said to me that they were hunting nyala and impala and a warthog, and they were trying, and they were having not too much luck. I reckon if it had been all 5 females together, it might have been a different story, and they might have been a little bit more successful. Now we know that these 3 girls with the cubs, they've got a little bit more motivation in that they've got to feed the cubs as well. So they've done quite well. We know they had a waterbuck last week, and then last night they obviously killed something. We don't know what, but they definitely got something that was fairly decent, that every single one of them has a slight bulge on the belly. So they've done a lot better than their 2 pride members. Miguel, unfortunately for them, it's time to then leave the pride and become a nomadic male until they can find a territory of their own. So what happens is these males, normally around 3.5 years, sometimes around 4, if they're lucky, they'll then get pushed out by the dominant males in that area, and they'll then become nomadic, and they'll have to move around until they can find an area that they can dominate themselves, and that's either going to be by taking over from another male or by finding an area that no males are currently in. So it's normally about 3.5 to 4 years old that they get pushed out. So sometimes depends on what's going on with the dynamics within the area that they're in. So let's say these males that are part of the pride get to 2.5 years and a new coalition of males comes in and overthrows the Birminghams. You might find that they'll break off a little bit earlier, and they'll then go and do their own thing for a little bit longer period of time than they would have had the males stayed around the Birminghams. Just the nice thing about wildlife is there's never any set rule. You'll find that these animals adjust according to what's going on around them. So there is sort of time frames that we can utilize as an average, but it's not always hard and fast rules that can be set in stone, and we can say that definitely this cub will leave at that stage, or these males will come in at that stage. So it's a really nice thing to have when it comes to wildlife. Alright, so we're going to still sit with the lions for a little bit longer. I just want to see if maybe the females are going to start waking up, and while we do that, let's go back to Jamie, who I believe is still with her elephants.
Oh, Craig and myself have been enjoying an absolutely magical time with these Ellies, and what a special way to spend an afternoon, a cold and rainy and uncomfortable afternoon. I've just found Fang, but you're going to have to wait in order to see her. She's here, but I don't want to put us in an awkward position. She's just off to my left. This roof is ever so slightly in my way. So many Ellies all around me and all hidden behind large bushes. I can't wait to show you Fang. She's such an extraordinary looking elephant. The little one's just up ahead. I can't believe how big he's got. I'm pretty sure it's him. I just have to try and show you again. No, elephants, I was hoping you were going to quarantine. Don't go that way. That way. Go that way. Nice and out and in the open, where I can see you properly. Now this is an important situation to remember, that an elephant herd that has always been very calm with us shouldn't be taken for granted. So as lovely and relaxed as they are, and they have been in the past, I'm never going to assume that just because it's Fang's herd that they're automatically going to be relaxed on this particular day. Now, we always treat each and every single wild animal sighting as a unique situation, watching their body language, watching the way that they're behaving, making sure that they are not in any way uncomfortable with us in their midst. That's not the little one, I don't think. It doesn't look like him. That looks too big. Surely that is too big to be that same little brand new Ellie. What you doing? What are you doing? Now, Tanis, you want to know how long elephant babies will suckle for? I mean, elephant baby is a massive investment for a female elephant. She bears it for 22 months. It suckles for another over 2 years. Up until about 3 or so years old even. Sometimes even recorded cases of even longer, that the female elephant will suckle her little one, and until she gives birth to, or she comes into estrus and she becomes pregnant with her next calf. And the weaning process of elephants is hysterical to watch. The babies do not like it, and they make a fuss and they scream, and they just in general make sure that everybody knows that they're thoroughly unimpressed. You know what, I think it might be him. It's amazing if it is. The speed with which he's grown. I can't even remember when that elephant sighting was now, but I do know that his mum was a particularly large female, with quite large tusks. Hey, what you got? What you got? Is it nice? Or is it not so nice? Oh! Not so nice. Ugh. Is that full of sand now and dirt? I can't even see what you're chewing. You know, you shouldn't put everything in your mouth that you find, little one. Some things are not so nice. So sweet. I just adore watching the way that it's using its trunk. Now, are you digging? Are you digging right down? But you don't have any tusks yet, so how are you going to dig? What is down there that your mom's dug up that you're after? Right down on its wrists. There's something so rounded about a baby elephant. And the adult females have these angular foreheads, and they're sort of got angles to their bones, but little baby elephants are just such perfect creatures. What are you doing? Now, Michelle, you want to know, while this little one goes about getting some lunch. Oh, we're done now. Michelle, you want to know how much an elephant will eat per day? It depends on whether we're talking a female or a male. A big bull elephant could easily eat up to 600 pounds in one day, believe it or not. Just constantly feeding, constantly eating. And he'll end up defecating out about half of that, between a third and about a half of that during the course of the day. So they do eat an enormous amount. Obviously the females will be much less, they don't weigh as much, and you're probably looking at around about 400 or so pounds per day. The little babies, much less, especially a little one like this one that's still reliant upon our mum's milk to supplement its diet. I wonder what it's doing. I want to go and see. I just want to make sure that there's nobody that snuck up behind me that might take offense to my turning on the vehicle. Hello? Fang, where are you? You were somewhere behind me. Very disconcerting feeling driving around in a tent. Elephants are smart enough to not overeat in an area? That is a really, really good question. And the answer is yes. In terms of biological, the evolutionary background, the vegetation and the elephants have evolved together. They have
So welcome back, everybody. As you can see, still very sleepy, wet kitties at the moment. They are a little bit damp and not too much is going on at all. They have not perked up for anything. I was hoping that maybe there would be something that would come through and start waking them up a little bit and get them going. But alas, we have just sleeping wet cats at this stage. But patience comes to those who wait. As Brent was discussing this morning in the tent, the one thing he's learnt is patience. So we will exercise our patience and hope maybe we'll get rewarded with something a little bit later. The only one that's really stayed awake the whole time that you've been away is this little cub. It's been still grooming itself, as you can see it, making sure that everywhere is absolutely spotless. What the good news is also is that it seems to be clearing up a little bit to our south. As we can see, the view that we had a little bit earlier was very dreary and rainy, whereas now it's not so bad. You can see the horizon a little bit clearer. It's not nearly as much rain falling, so that is good news. Hopefully we will end up with a dry start tomorrow, or at least a dry finish this evening, which will be very, very welcome. I know, like I say, that it's good that we have the rain and that it helps to ease the effects of the drought, but I can tell you driving around in the rain is a little bit miserable. It seems to soak in everywhere and gets into the worst places, down your shoes and between your toes, and everything gets a little bit soggy. So I can sympathize with these lions a little bit, and it's no wonder that they're not too active. Now it's going to be interesting to see where these Nkuhumas are going to end up in the next few weeks. They are buffalo specialists after all, but there's very few buffalo around. I haven't seen any tracks of buffalo this week, and so there's not that much food available in terms of large animals. And so I'm sure they're going to start pushing back northwards again to be able to start looking for buffalo up into the Manyeleti and Buffelshoek. Was reading a study the other day of the Manyeleti Game Reserve, and they were doing the grass species that grow there, and they reckon that that is one of the best places for grazing animals to graze, and so that's why the buffalo spend a lot of time up there. There's all these nutritious grass species that they love and taste really good, and that's then what drags the lions up as well. In the winter months, those grass areas get so overgrazed that the buffalo then spread out a little bit, and then we start to see those herds coming down into the Sabi Sands area, and the lions then obviously follow those buffalo in. Oh, a little shake. Ah, we have some movement. A little stretch and yawn. You can see that little belly swaying from side to side, so that little cub obviously got a good meal last night. Now it's going to just go and do some bonding with the female. It's a little grooming. Sometimes you'll find they'll rub up against the female's head. So May saying, have I got that right, Lou, who is a new viewer? Welcome, May. I hope you are enjoying the show so far. You want to know what a group of lions is called? Well, it's called a pride of lions. That is the collective noun for groups of lions that are together. And if it is a group of males together, we call them a coalition. So if it's females and cubs, the pride, males, a coalition. Now there's another little cub that's come out, and I think that little cub got a bit jealous that the one was getting food, and that's why it's come out to see if there's some milk that it can come and feed on as well. I would imagine it's like making yourself a nice cup of tea on a cold day. The female's body heat will keep that milk relatively warm, so it's like having a nice warm drink to keep them nice and comfortable in this cold, dreary weather. Oh, big yawn as well. So, Diana, you're wondering whether it's hard for a lone male cub to join a coalition. It is indeed. Now, it's not a very common occurrence for a male cub to find another young male somewhere and to start a coalition together. They will never be able to join a big dominant coalition. So let's say a young male cub came from somewhere else. They would never be able to join the Birminghams. The Birminghams will chase them because they're not territorial, and they know that a young male is competition. So it's competition for mating, competition for food, and so they're not going to tolerate that. But what might happen is you might get a young male, let's say from this Nkuhuma Pride, and let's say a young male from the Styx Pride, and the two of them get pushed out at a similar time and they find one another, and sometimes they will form coalitions together. I know the previous male that came out of this pride, who we used to call Junior, he has met up with another male and is now starting to form a coalition, and the two of them move around together. They were seen fairly recently in the Kruger National Park, quite far from here, but they have met up and they've become a coalition. So it does happen, but it is a very rare thing to happen. It's not very common at all, and the likelihood of that lone male finding a coalition member before he comes across bigger dominant males is very, very low. It's in all likelihood he's going to come across big males and he's going to get killed. So that's why males that are born in groups together or are in a cub situation where there's other males that are born to other females and can grow up together, they generally are far better off than lone males, and their chance of survival is far better as well. So DJ, you are wondering whether I have ever seen, or if we ever see, lions with the white genetics in this area. Unfortunately not, DJ. The only place that wild white lions occur within South Africa is, or in fact even in Africa, is in the Timbavati, which is a section just north of us in the Kruger National Park. There is a female there, and then there is a lone male that is in the eastern side of the Kruger National Park. It's not too far north of where we are, but it's very far east, right up against the Mozambique boundary, and that's the only other white lion. So there's only two of them that are wild white lions at the moment, and so unfortunately we do not see them here. It is a recessive gene, so the female or male has got to carry that gene to be able to pass it on and for them to be produced. The interesting thing, though, is that it can happen here. It's not like it can't happen. You might find at some point this gene develops and you could get a white lion being born here, but I don't think so. It would probably require a male that comes from that pride that has that white lioness and that moves down into this area and mates with a female, and we could then potentially get white cubs, but it's going to be a very rare thing to happen. Alright, so we're going to carry on with the lions, and like I say, we're going to see if we can get a little bit of activity out of them and be nice and patient. And while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and her elephants.
Look at the little one. So earlier I was a bit confused. Sorry. There's a buffalo that just bellowed at me. Where on earth did you come from? What was that about? It sounded like a buffalo distress call at first, but I can see the buffalo. And it is definitely not in distress. It's just having a jolly good scratch. Right, sorry, I was very confused earlier about the fact that, and I can't show you the buffalo because the roof is very much in the way, and I definitely can't reposition because Fang is standing on top of me behind me. I was confused that elephant, baby elephant, had grown as fast as it would have had to reach the size of the one we were looking at earlier. And that's because it wasn't that baby. We found another one, and I think it might be this one. Now, of course, as I try to show you, it's disappeared behind this female and is now completely hidden. There we go. Come on, little one. Out you come. Out you come. I saw it earlier trying to push over a small tree, and it was utterly hilarious. I don't know where Fang is. She's gone lurking behind me. Just keep an eye out for her. She keeps disappearing. Come on, little one. Out you come. Out you come. You little bundle of mischief. You've been up to all sorts until it's time to put you on camera, and then you get all shy. Are you camera shy? You can't be camera shy. Half the world has watched you take your first steps. That is a slight exaggeration, not quite half the world. But lots and lots of people have watched you take your first steps. Come on. Aren't you come? No, still hiding. Come on, little one. I'm trying to see if this is actually Fang. She's definitely got a backwards facing tusk. And I'm sorry, I can't put her on camera either, so just watch the baby elephant for now. I just want to keep an eye on her. I think it is her, but I think she's lost the tip of that tusk. It was already very heavily notched, and I think it's fallen off, and that's why she looks a bit different. Oh, are you stick twirling? Are you practicing for the baton team? The marching band? Here we go. Hello, gorgeous. Oh, so shy today. Here we go. Look at this little one. Isn't it too sweet? Well, the wonderful thing about baby elephants, here's the thing that most of our regular viewers know, but perhaps our newer viewers don't. Baby elephants' trunks are slightly proportionately shorter than that of the adults, so that they don't step on them and fall over and damage them. You're gorgeous. Look at you having a scratch. How's it, Fang? Okay, big girl. You're okay. You're alright, big girl. It's not me causing the trouble, it's the buffalo. Promise, it's got nothing to do with me. I'm a big girl. Alright. Okay. Hi, girl. Sorry, everybody, we can't show you, but Fang's coming up to say hello. So I'm just keeping an eye on her. You keep watching the baby because it's adorable. And I'll keep watching Fang. Hello, my big girl. Hi. Okay. Okay, girl. Alright. It's okay. Alright. You're having a good head scratch there, my girl. Okay. I hear you. We'll move as soon as we can, but we can't now. Not with you sitting on top of us. A station by Treehouse Dam for Jamie. Attacks, there's Meningi and Love here. If you can just come very, very slowly. We've got one Mufuzzy that's not so happy. Negative, we're to the northern side of the dam, the one that links up to Philemon's cut line. Here we go, big girl. Okay, copy, thanks, Tax. Hey, big girl. It's alright. It's fascinating to watch, just to describe what's happening. You've been watching this little baby elephant be utterly adorable. Fang's not threatening us in any way. She's just standing, just looming over us, completely still, making sure that we know that she's there and that it would be a very, very poor idea to try anything naughty. Not that we ever would, but she's just making sure she's doing her job as potentially the matriarch, but also perhaps just an older female that's been there and done that and seen a few things. Okay, girl. Alright. It's okay. It's okay. I'm a big girl. Yeah, I know you're not actually eating. Here, she's gonna come in front of us. Slow movements, Craig, quiet movements. Yeah, we see your little baby, and we're not going to do anything, I promise. Here she comes. There she comes. Hello, my big girl. Alright, it's okay, I see your baby. There she is, you can just show off on the left here. She's gonna pop out. There she comes. Here we go, my girl. There we go. Yeah, look how protective she is. Standing between us and the baby. Here we go. Everybody's calm now. Cool. Very, very cool. Is that definitely the branch you want, big girl? Look at this. How cool is that? Plonk. Yum. Marula branch. Now, Darlene, you want to know if Fang is the matriarch of this herd of elephants. I want to make sure 100% sure that this is Fang. I'm pretty sure it is. Obviously, that distinctive right tusk that's bent backwards is quite obvious, but there's more than one elephant out here that has a bent backwards tusk. I'm pretty sure it is her, though. I think it's just that the tip has fallen off. But those of you who perhaps have screenshots of Fang from previous sightings, maybe if you could share them with me so I can check the ears as well. But I'm pretty sure that it is her. And Darlene, you want to know if she's the matriarch of this herd. I don't know for certain. I suspect she might be quite up there. She's not a young elephant, so she's a very, very large female, and her skin has slowly but surely lost elasticity, so you can see the indentations around her forehead. And that is a good indication that she's quite an old girl. And generally the older females tend to take up leadership positions within the herd itself. So whilst she might not be the matriarch necessarily, I think she might be, but while she's not the matriarch necessarily, she's definitely one of the older females responsible for the safety of the herd. And what you'll often find is sometimes you get sort of the matriarch's sisters or older daughters, that they will take the position of leading the herd, and the matriarch will walk at the back, or vice versa. The matriarch will lead the herd and the older females will walk behind her. Hello, lovely girl. Oh, yum. At least you didn't waste that marula branch. You ate all the leaves. Now, our little elephant calf has been left behind and is just about to pop out. Sorry, I don't want to take my eyes off her for too long. Just want to make sure that there's nobody sneaking up. One last look at our little elephant calf, because he's going to vanish. Yes. Yes, you. Yes, you with your stick in your mouth. And as he waddles off, let's go and find out what Brent is up to.
Lovely big elephant. But quite useful, one would imagine, in a... amazing. I love it when you look at things and something else just pops up next to you. So, look at this here, Brian. And see these little, like, teeth marks or scratch marks there? Now, nothing goes to waste out here. Now, every big bone, mostly your little bone, will eventually become absolutely nothing. And porcupine, bushveld gerbils, and lots of other little rodents and other animals, including impala and giraffe, will chew on pieces of bone if they need a bit of calcium. Now, there's been much joking about, they found some elephants, they found some lions, but they covered nearly 5,000 acres. Right? We covered about, let's work it out. So we found an elephant and a caterpillar and a moth that escaped in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 meters, and we still have an elephant through there. So he's keeping his distance, but he has been feeding around us. You can just see that dark shape through there. Actually, there's more than one elephant around here now. Well, they better behave. Now, Helmut was wondering about how close you can approach an elephant bull in must. Again, Helmut, you can probably get as close as you would when he is out of must, but again, it's something I would never do unless I was pushed into that situation and had no choice. And as I said, I could have let that elephant, where was he? He was about there. I could have let that elephant get, so I was standing right here, hey, Brian? So there we go. I could have easily let that elephant get 1, 2, 3, 5 meters and done the clap to stop him coming any closer. But again, now, it's in that much closer distance that if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. That's why you don't take chances with animals, and you need to keep your respect for them. But Helmut, it is safe to, in a vehicle, you can, Brian, we've been a meter from a must bull, and every elephant is different, every sighting is different, every situation is different, and you need to gauge all of those sightings individually. If you start being blasé and brazen, it is when you'll get yourself into trouble, and often that means you're going to get the animals into trouble because people tend to react negatively to elephants that whack vehicles and stuff like that. So that's why I would always rather, or specifically on foot, keep my distance a little bit further from them. And of course, I've got Brian to worry about. You've got to look after the killer bees, you know. You can't just have the killer bees being flattened by an elephant. Now, just to make sure that everyone knows that I'm not as I've got James's Camp at the tent. So I couldn't help myself. I've been waiting so long to do that. Now, I mentioned a story from northern Botswana a bit earlier about an elephant running away from a rabid steenbok, and that prompted Sarah to say, well, elephants, can they get rabies? Well, all mammals have the capability of getting rabies. So yes, all mammals can get rabies, and I've never actually heard of a reported case of rabies in elephants, but I'm sure there have been. But that would possibly be one of the scariest things in the world. I mean, a rabid steenbok is an incredibly scary thing. Now imagine 7 tons of rabid elephant bull charging and trying to flatten everything in its path. Now rabies is quite interesting because there's a couple of little anecdotes or rules when it comes to dealing with rabies, and I've unfortunately had to put down quite a few animals with rabies over my years in the bush, mostly domestic dogs and cats that have shown rabid signs, and the odd waterbuck, the odd steenbok, but when we do find anything with rabies, and definitely with the full-blown symptoms, we will put it down and burn the carcass, send the brain off to Onderstepoort for verification, but just to make sure, we burn the carcasses. Now, the rabies virus is not a very tough virus, so as it means it has to come from the saliva, and when you get bitten, it has to go into your skin. Now, one of the biggest vectors of rabies out here, where did it go? Oh, it's on the top shelf. I don't know if James can reach this. Here we go. Is a jackal, and here we've got the skull of a black-bucked jackal. So, it's stuck together. I don't know whether it's stuck together on purpose or not, so I'm just going to leave it like that. But as you can see, so rabies is in the salival glands. So if you get bitten and it pierces the skin, that is one of the biggest problems with rabies. And well, fortunately these days there are some ways, as we saw with Sindile, that you are able to get away from the rabies with inoculation and stuff. With human beings, you have to get it within the first couple of hours of being bitten, and even if you have the slight suspicion of of a rabid animal biting you, you need to get the injections. Fortunately, the injections are much nicer than they used to be. And there was a rabies outbreak because of the drought at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, in Hoedspruit, which is the closest town to us. And I actually went out and spent a lot of time on foot in that area on the reserve where my parents live, and that's where Jamie and I have a house. And most of the blackback jackals were destroyed because of rabies. We lost a whole pack of wild dogs to rabies, so we actually went and got inoculated before being bitten, just to it makes it a lot easier to deal with it when it happens. But we will chat about that. I'm sure there might be a few more questions about rabies, so if you do, it is one of the slightly more macabre and more interesting diseases. Please send your questions through to #SafariLive or questions at WildEarthTV, and try answer some more questions about rabies if you have any. And I think of course, any questions are welcome. But let's go see if Tristan's lions have decided to wake up, or are they as drowsy as Tristan is?
Well, they are still very, very sleepy, Brent. They have not decided to wake up at all. There's just one that's going to the toilet, but that is about it, and I would be pretty sure that it's going to lie down shortly as well. Now, Viam and I were discussing the rabid elephant story, and we reckon a rabid elephant would be quite scary, but Viam's still of the firm opinion that a rabid hyena is way scarier, and we know that Brent from the past believes the same thing. Also, on the subject of the elephant and Brent, I'm not sure you can say that you found an elephant that walked into the tent, even though he did find his caterpillar and his butterfly. I'll give him that. But the elephant pretty much walked into the entrance of the tent, and that then constitutes him bumping and not actually finding. Now, while we were sitting on the vehicle and the the lions, should I say, sorry, they've been sleeping, I was looking around our vehicle to try to see if I could find anything else to show you guys, and I managed to find a beetle. That's all I've got from inside the car. So we have a little chafer beetle that is sitting on our dashboard. It is just minding its own business. It seems very happy in the light. It's not too worried about it. It is still alive, so its legs do move, but I'll put my finger there so you can just get an idea of the size of it. But I'm pretty sure that this beetle has been attracted by the big light that we have on at the moment that is illuminating my face, and so it came flying in and has landed and looks very, very happy with itself in the light. So very, very good to see. It's nice when we have a few other smaller things that arrive other than the sleeping lions. It keeps us entertained, and it looks like the cub and the female are having a little bit of a cuddling session. Look at that. Does that not look like the picture of absolute comfort? On the back, yawning, paws in. That is one happy little cub. And it's stopped raining completely now, so I'm sure that cub is very happy to be a little drier than what it was earlier. Isn't that cute? And now its paws are firmly placed in its mom's face. Warriors cat lover, you're asking how strong is a lion's sense of smell? Well, their sense of smell is very, very good. I've seen lions at times pop their heads up and start sniffing into the wind, and that wind that's blowing, they sniff out buffalo that were over a kilometer away, so they were able to smell those buffalo coming. Maybe they also heard a little bit, but there was more the scent. You could see them lifting their heads and taking big deep breaths as the wind gusted past them, so their sense of smell is very good. It's also why they'll utilize their urine to scent mark, is it leaves a scent, and these lions then can come past and smell it and be able to know that there was other lions there and who that lion is. Remember, they have that organ in the roof of their mouth called the organ of Jacobson that analyzes that chemical scent, and it's able to then calculate what's going on. So their sense of smell is really, really strong, and it is a major feature of their anatomy and the way that they survive and interact with their environment. And you can see that little cub has still got a very pink nose. It's starting to get black on the edges, but the middle is still very pink. As they get a little bit older, it's often a genetic thing, but as they get older, generally the nose starts to darken a little bit, and you end up with a black nose when they get to adulthood. So Marcy, these cubs are now about, I'm just do the math, they were born in April, May, so they're about 8 months now. That's how old they are. These are the older cubs. There was a younger litter that was born, but unfortunately they passed away due to mange. They were born in about, I think it was end of May, beginning of June, and unfortunately with the mange that came around and then white muscle disease, they ended up succumbing to those because they probably were a little bit younger. Their immune systems weren't quite as strong as the older cubs, and they unfortunately passed away. So these are all older cubs. So Lou is saying to me that she thinks one from that litter is still alive. I'm not 100% sure, Lou. Well, we'll have to check it out, and thanks for the update and the info. It would make sense because there is one that is a little bit smaller than the rest. But I actually haven't seen these lions moving in the last week. The last time I had them, they were running into the bush and then they found themselves a waterbuck meal that they ate. So I didn't get to actually see the varying sizes. And today they've been very stationary. They've hardly moved around at all. They've been quite lazy. So I haven't seen the cubs and can't really tell which ones are which at the moment. They're all kind of huddled together. But it would make sense if there is one that did survive. We'll have to ask some of the viewers if any of you out there know exactly which cubs are alive and who belongs to who and can help us out. It would be great to hear from you. Remember, you can use #SafariLive or send it through to questions at WildEarthTV. Now, it is getting a lot darker. We're starting to get quite gloomy out here, so I would imagine that these lions should start waking up and start moving around, so hopefully we will see that. Although with these fuller bellies, I think they might just take a little bit of an extended nap tonight. And Lynn, you're asking whether the lions' tummies will make a noise when they're hungry and if we will be able to hear it. Well, Lynn, I have heard lion tummies and little grumbles coming from them, but it's not really when they're only hungry. I've heard it when they're full, when they are just plain normal, and when they are quite hungry as well. So you can sometimes hear it. In this case today, they were a little bit fuller, so I don't think we'd hear any grumbles for hunger. They've definitely had a good meal last night, so there's going to be none of that. But you would be able to hear if there was a little grumbling of the stomach, much like as people, we can hear it. It's the same thing with these lions. Oh, good afternoon. Or should I say good evening? Seems like she's just rolled over, and I don't think she wants to get up just yet. I think that's more just out of comfort than anything else. I always love when lionesses roll like this. It looks completely ridiculous to have this massive cat on its back with legs in the air. And you think of domestic cats, it's very seldom that they actually sleep like this. Domestic cats tend to sleep on their side. So it's a nice trait that the big cats have when they lie like this. And look at that one scratching its tummy with its paw. Well, it stopped now, fortunately, but they do sometimes do it. They use that front paw and they run it along their stomach, and basically alleviates the itch that they have on that chest area, which is quite cute. And you can see it shaking its head every now and then. Now that the rain has stopped, I would imagine the flies are going to be a bit of an issue. Rabies, you're wondering whether male and female lion cubs display different traits. In terms of behavior, not really. The males might be slightly more dominating around carcasses and at playtime because they might be a little bit stronger than what the female cubs are. But there's no real trait in terms of behavior. In terms of their physiological aspects, you'll find that the males will grow much quicker than what the females will do. So if you had to put a male and female cub of the same age next to one another now at 8 months, you'll find the male will be a lot more bulky. Now, if you have been watching the show, and maybe you have seen the cubs of Karula, which is our female leopard that we see in this area, she has a male and female cub, and you can see the size difference quite clearly between the two of them, even though they are the same age. So in terms of physiologically, yes, there are a few traits that are slightly different. Also, as the males get a little bit older, so their mane starts to come out. But in terms of behavior, it's all pretty much the same. They'll all be very playful. They'll all spend a lot of time around one another, grooming one another, cuddling up to mom, being very inquisitive of insects. And it actually becomes more down to an individual basis. So you'll find some will be a little bit more timid, some will be a bit more playful. So it's not male or female, it's more just an individual animal that will determine how they are. But that activity was very short-lived. As you can see, the female is back to sleep again. She's decided it's not quite time to wake up. But like I was saying, it is getting very gloomy now, and the wind is picking up, so conditions are really good for them to hunt again. I know they did eat last night, but they're not exactly stuffed, so if there's something around, they could very well get up and start moving and hunting. I'm surprised we haven't seen any of them actually putting their nose to the wind and just scenting just to see if there is anything. We were talking earlier about their sense of smell. Often you'll find in windy conditions the lions just pick up their heads, and every now and then they just take in a few breaths of air and try and see if they can pick up any signs of animals around them. You can see she's very focused on that vehicle that just left at the moment. She's listening to it driving away, and it's now starting to get out of our audio range, and that's maybe why she's also not too concerned anymore. But you can see, look at how the ears are moving. So those ears are just like little satellite dishes. They're picking up all the little bits of sound that are coming out around us, and they're able to work out what's going on and hear any rustles in the grass or any approaching threats that might come through. Alright, so we are going to probably leave these lions fairly shortly. They don't look like they're going to get up to too much, and so while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and see what she's got for us.
I haven't got much to show you. Unfortunately, it was really time for us to leave the elephants. They were disappearing off into some dense vegetation, and obviously it started to get a little bit dark for elephant viewing. I'm starting to have my doubts. Not starting to have my doubts. I had my doubts from the beginning about whether or not that is that particular baby that we saw stumbling around a couple of months ago. And the reason I say that is, unless perhaps its mother was somewhere elsewhere and it was just being brave, because I never saw it suckle from that younger female. But unless I'm mistaken, and perhaps I am, I have this memory of the mother of the new calf being quite an old female, or at least quite a large female with quite large tusks. And perhaps I'm misremembering it. Perhaps, I mean, I really was focused on the elephant calf, but I don't seem to remember it being that small. But maybe just the calf went wandering and I couldn't see the mother. I'm not 100% convinced though. Could be the same herd. I seem to remember vaguely Taylor saying something about the fact that... Sorry, I'm just going to turn this radio down. Something about the fact that after she saw the new baby, she saw another new baby. And I don't know whether it was with that herd or not. I'll have to ask her when she gets back, or when we get back. I thought, just quickly, although it was a bit knob thorny, very, very hooked thorns, I thought maybe we could come and visit the old hyena den. Now, James said he found lots of tracks of hyenas here, and that he thought perhaps they might be around. But the elephants have made life even more difficult than it was previously to get in here. So hold on a moment. Now, if it is active, we won't be able to stay for very long because it is dark, but it might just be worth checking. Still in this constant source of sort of optimism that we're going to find a hyena den. You never know. Okay, let's try this. Oh, this isn't going to work either with this silly roof on. Okay, let's try going around this way. I probably should have thought this out better. Sorry, Craig, you're going to have to duck. Well, no, you might not, actually. The trees will protect... the roof will protect you. Okay, round the corner we go. Everybody duck. And nobody's home. Oh well. It was worth a try. I don't actually know where James's hyena den that he thought he'd found was, where he said there was signs of hyena activity. I'm not 100% sure. I thought it was the old Philemon's cutline den, but I might be mistaken about that. but nobody's home. Okay, back around. So while I navigate my way back out of here, let's go back into the tent with Brent.
Hi. I went fossicking again, and I found something so cool. Now, it is a little spider. I'm not sure which spider species it is. Oh, I don't want to move that. So let's jump across to the microscope. Look at that. Now you can see the spinnerets on the abdomen of this little spider. It is minute. Now, that's its egg sac, and she was busy adding another layer to it. So I've actually collected some grass for her that she can be able to stay close by. I'm not going to leave her inside in case she has to wander off and go get food. So I've got some other grass I'm going to put her in. But isn't that amazing? You can see the spinnerets. Ooh, upset elephant outside. I find that absolutely amazing. I'm just going to change the focus so you can have a look at her egg sac. Now let's see if I can do this without making it. Actually, I think I'm going to take the extra light away. And there we go. Now look at that silk. Oh. Look at that silk. How fine that silk is. And now she's taken the little branchlets of this grass and managed to create a little safe haven for her egg sac there. So there we go. You can see. Oh, it's quite scary, isn't it, Brian? It is. Okay, well, I'm going to try. I haven't been able to have a look at her face yet, but I think it's just one of the little grass spiders. I think she might have the male in her jaws. So I'm going to try flip her over. So let's not get seasick and watch Brent try a microscope. There we go. Let's do it this way. You can watch me try very delicately turn this over. Oh. No. Is that it there? Is that the right one? I need something to put a bit of weight on there so it doesn't roll. Now this is a very delicate procedure, as you can see. And just getting it lined up. Does that look scary enough to be a... Oh dear, sorry about this, guys. It is going to be worth it once I get this right. Actually, I'm just going to clip a little piece of grass that seems to be rolling it over. There's one why, although this knife might be a little bit overkill for grass snipping, but it is useful. There we go. I need it. You know, when one needs to do delicate stuff, use the scissors. Now, I'm quite... Oh, see, there is something else there. I think it's something she's eaten. I'm not sure whether it's the male spider. Okay, there we go. Is there any more other delicate snipping needs to be done? Snip. Very delicate. Snip. Okay. Let's try again. Now, let's just make sure we get the right... Oh, see there? Okay. That's not what I was looking for. There. Oh, okay. Wait, hang on. No, every time I let it go, it just rolls out. I don't think I should hold it. Okay? If we just do that. There we go. Okay, let's go back to the microscope. Oh, is it rolling away from us? Oh no, don't roll away. There we go, you can see her head. And the black thing off to the right of her there is actually, it looks like another spider species she might have been eaten. It doesn't look like an ant. It's rolling away. It's rolling away, don't roll away. Oh dear, I do this. Oh my goodness. Oh no! Come back. Okay, there's the thing that's dead. Okay, so it looks like another spider. A different species of spider. I thought it might be the male. Is it alive? Do I see movement? Now you must remember there could be tiny little mites. Was that a water droplet? I almost thought I saw some movement. I think it was my imagination. This is so cool. Okay, I'm I'm going to try it one more time to get a non-rolling away. Okay, we're nearly there. Whoop. Oh no, other way. There we go. Okay, let's change the focus. Let me see if we can see those eyes on top. There we go. Well done. I'm patting myself on the back at the moment. Finally. So there we go. So some female spiders are quite protective of their egg sac. So she'll sit there and protect it. I mean, look at those fine little hairs. Now, those are little sensory organs that she'll use when she hunts as well. So a spider like this is not really going to hunt using a web. She's going to march up and down and along all the little grass seeds, and that's how she's going to hunt. Now, when I say she's minute, she's less than a millimeter. And she's right on that egg sac. And quite often at this time, she's just had that big meal. She's probably not going to hunt again until these babies hatch. So that's why I've collected her a whole bunch of stuff. And I've got a little vase that I'm going to make for her. So we can keep an eye on her in the tent and see if those spiders hatch in the next little while. So as I said, she's not going to eat while she's protecting that egg sac. That is pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. What do you think?
Yeah.
Next predator versus alien. Now, Sid, speaking about spiders, this spider will definitely be venomous, but I don't think its mouth parts are big enough for us to ever be bitten by it. But Sid was wondering what is the most venomous spider here. It's probably between the violin spider and the black button spider as the two most venomous. Now, you do get other ones like sack spiders, which are terrible things. I fortunately have not been bitten by many of these things in my life. I've managed to be quite lucky. Now, that is very cool. Okay, so let's show you what I'm going to do to make her a home, so we can come away from the quite scary looking spider. There we go, there we go. See, I've even got some indigofera, some flowers, just to make it a bit pretty. I mean, after my James's Valentine bouquet, I decided maybe I should think about doing this on a more permanent basis, you know. What do you think? Maybe not. And we've got some Shangan cabbage. There we go. And let's take a little bit of herringbone that she's on. Pop it in there so she's nice and safe. And you can see there how small she is. I'm going to put it down. Do you need a bit of extra light? Let me just turn her around for you. So you can see how incredibly small she is. I mean, those indigofera flowers are tiny. There she is there, protecting her eggs. Now I'm going to just put my finger behind, and my baby finger. So I was actually hunting for moths when I spotted her. Okay, well, the piece de resistance. There we go. Now we're cooking. Let's go. There's a little bit of water in the bottom, so all good. Let's pop it there. Okay, so I've got one more really fascinating thing to show you in the microscope, but it's going to take me some time so I don't make you all seasick. So let's go back to Tristan and see what he's up to.
Well, while Brent sets up his microscope, we've left those lions. We've left them to sleep, although we did wake them up a little bit. Unfortunately, our alarm went off. So I know it happened to Jamie the other day and Wendy, and our alarm decided, or the hooter decided to go off uncontrollably. So rather than disturb the lions, we decided to carry on and leave them be. They were still fairly sleepy though when we left. They were all lying down. None of them had run away or anything like that, but when the hooter does go off, they do get a little bit of a fright because it's a little bit new for them. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to slowly backtrack the way that they came. And what I'm hoping for is that if they did have a meal, potentially where those vultures were sitting earlier, is maybe there will be some signs of hyenas. So we're going to try and see if maybe we get lucky and find a hyena that's just trailing along and maybe picks up some of the smells for those scraps that could have been left behind. that's what we're going to try and do. It's become very, very dark, and obviously it's quite wet out here, so I'd imagine most of our daylight animals have all decided to go to sleep long ago. So I'm pretty sure that the nocturnals will be out, and it's actually that time of the day where it's time for a spotlight. So I'm just going to try and get my spotlight out. During the chaos of the hooter going off, I tried to check the batteries, and so the cable is just a little bit caught up here, but all is good. Now, as I said before, in conditions like this, it's actually a really good time to be out at this time of the day, because you find that a lot of your nocturnal animals will start coming out earlier than normal. So things like genets and civets and pangolins and aardvarks and all these tough to see nocturnal animals do start coming out in weather like this. And in fact, most of the pangolin sightings I've had has been in quite dreary, rainy conditions, and so maybe that would be something, wouldn't it, to get a pangolin. It's been a long time since I've seen one. Actually, the last one I saw was in December of 2015, so it would be good to see them. And we're just coming past Buffelshoek Dam. Just want to see maybe if there's any sign of a hippo out of the water starting to do its grazing. We did come past here earlier and there was no hippos in the dam itself, but you never know. Sometimes in dreary conditions, hippos do walk around during the day, but what we might get is a cacophony of frog calls. So I'm just going to actually switch off here. Can you hear that? Lots of different frogs calling. We've got the painted reed frogs, which are ticking away. Tick, tick, tick. I did hear some banded rubbers earlier. I can't hear them now. They've gone quiet. There the banded rubbers are. There we go. So the frogs are going to be incredible tonight. After this rain, they're all going to start coming out and starting to call and vocalize like this so that they can reproduce. They're looking for a mate, and then they can start doing their mating process, and tomorrow morning we'll probably still see the back end of that, and they'll start to be laying their eggs for the tadpoles to form in these puddles, while there are still quite a few puddles around. There's also a thickney calling, so a bird species that's also here. Isn't that amazing? I love coming and sitting and listening to the frogs calling like this. It's such a special thing to do. Very, very nice. Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to see any of them with our rain flaps. If I had to go any more forward for VM to be able to focus a camera, we're going to end up in Buffelshoek Dam, which is not where we want to be. I don't think Wendy would take too kindly to being submerged. But sometimes it's just so nice just to sit and listen and enjoy the sounds, and often after rain the sounds are at their best. All the insects are coming out, and frogs, as we've just heard. The only ones that are a little bit miserable are the birds. They tend to be a little bit quieter while it's still raining, but this evening, well, tomorrow morning, once the rain has stopped, there'll be an explosion. Oh, sorry, a little scrub hare came darting out there, so I luckily avoided that. I was busy turning around to talk to the camera and didn't see it until the last second, but all's well that ends well. Scrub hare is safe. Now, alright, so we're going to carry along and see if maybe we do get lucky with a hyena as we follow back on the tracks of the lions. So while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and get an update from her.
Well, no exciting updates at the moment, but I think that Tristan and I have had a very similar ideas in our search for spotted hyenas. Whilst Tristan goes back to investigate where he thinks there might be a carcass, which would make sense because that would explain the full bellies of the Nkuhumas, we are trundling along a bit closer to camp in the hope that perhaps we might see one of them wandering around. They do like to come and visit us every now and again. And just let me say that I do fully sympathize with poor Tristan and Wendy's horn going off. I know exactly, vividly, what that feels like. She does have amazing timing. She likes to do it in cat sightings, apparently. She did it to me in the leopard sighting during a countdown into our television advert break. And now she's done it to Tristan in his lion sighting. It was quite entertaining listening to it over the Game Drive channel, though, which is the way in which we communicate with other guides. And just listening to one of the other guides calling Tristan, going, "Tristan, is everything okay? Are you alright?" And poor frazzled Tristan, who I can just imagine is desperately trying every possible technique to get the car to shut up. Pulling the key out, pressing all the buttons. It is the most paralyzing feeling. I could just imagine. I didn't even have to try and imagine, because I know exactly what that feels like. Well, we all do. It's happened to all of us at one point or another in our career. I did it gently the other day with Wendy's horn that I didn't know worked. Rusty's doesn't, but Wendy's does, and I accidentally knocked it with my knee, and it just went barp barp in a really half-hearted manner. And some curious looks from the guides that were in the sighting with me. So many bronze-winged coursers in the road. One of my favorite nocturnal bird species. Here we go, he's running along in the, well, now he's too far in the front. Hey, little one. There's our little bronze-winged courser. Dashing about. Hi. Giving the tail a little fluff. So it's a nocturnal bird species. Dashing along. And much like with owls, it's okay to have the lights on them initially. As soon as they fly away, then you take the lights off them and let them get on with their nocturnal business. Plop, plop, plop. Are you charging me, little bronze-winged courser? I love them. I think they're really beautiful birds. And you can see from the size of their eyes that they're nocturnal. Excuse me. Thank you. Sorry to disturb you. Okay, let's go see if there's any hyenas that have come lurking round camp. They like to pay us a visit every now and again. And James, who has a habit of leaving his shoes out to dry outside of his room, is one day going to come outside and find one shoe. Apparently he found a scorpion in his shoe once. That's also a possibility. Scorpion climbing into your shoe, spider. My highlight once was a tree frog, or a foam nest frog, that had crawled into my shoe. I have to tell you, that was a very, very surprising sensation. I didn't force my foot into the shoe. I just started to, as I touched it, I felt it start to wriggle in my boots. I cannot tell you. I didn't scream, I didn't squeal. I was very, very self-contained, I feel, for finding a frog in one's shoe. But it was a distinct surprise. I'm not sure who got the biggest surprise, me or the frog. I think maybe the frog. It did look at me with a thoroughly disgruntled expression after I tipped it out. That wasn't my fault, though. I didn't even leave that shoe outside. Just decided it wanted to be inside there. Told you, foam nest frogs find their ways into the strangest places. There's one inside Alex's rowing machine. Well, there was. I think it's probably moved now. Richie, you want to know whether or not we ever get scared driving in the dark? What if a predator attacks? No, I don't get scared. The animals are never going to jump into the vehicles with us. The chances of that happening is next to nothing. I have never ever had a bad encounter with a predator. Obviously at night they are more bold, and you definitely wouldn't want to walk in the bush in the middle of the night. That is a different story. That is when you really run the risk of being badly injured or probably actually killed. And often by lions, because lions know at night. They're a completely different animal. They know they are the dominant predator. So no, I don't really get scared driving around at night. I don't ever take it for granted. It's important to remember we're in a wilderness area, but I'm not afraid of a predator attacking us. The only time I've ever been frightened in the dark had nothing to do with animals and everything to do with, it was a long time ago, with going out on an anti-poaching patrol. And not as a trained anti-poacher, I'm not a trained anti-poacher, but we saw somebody, we'd come back from an evening out and we saw somebody trying to get into the reserve. And it was just because we had a dog with us that we actually spotted it, because the dog barked. And we then couldn't contact anybody, so we went out in our vehicles to try and sort of drive the fence line with lights flashing and so on, just as a deterrent. We didn't know what else to do. And it was right at the start of my guiding career. And I remember being quite scared then, even though the chances of poachers necessarily doing something to us or drawing attention to themselves at that point was slim. It was still quite scary. And being stuck once in the bush and having to go walking into the darkness to try and find logs to stuff under the wheels of the car, that was also quite scary. I've had one or two instances where I've been a bit nervous in the dark, but never just driving around like this. This doesn't bother me too much. I'd sooner drive round here than I would round central Johannesburg in the dark. And actually, speaking of it, and speaking of this sort of situation, not to go into anything morbid, but just to say that our thoughts are with the staff members at the Rhino Orphanage that was attacked a few days ago. It was a deeply, deeply traumatizing thing for them and of course for the animals, but I think of them often and I hope that they are on their road to recovery. Right, let's move on to more cheerful things and go across to Brent in his tent of terror.
Some very scary things in the African bush, and one of them is, of course, rabid animals. So we have a question. I closed down all my technological advantages so we could have this dark and airy surroundings. And one of the questions, and forgive me, I cannot remember who it was from, was that, can reptiles get rabies? And very happily, no, they can't. From Clayton. So no, rabies only attacks the mammalian nervous system. So reptiles, fish, birds, all cannot get rabies. And there was another question. What is the scariest animal or strangest animal I've seen with rabies? Or weirdest animal I've seen with rabies? And that was from Shannon. Thank you. Sorry, this is my fault for closing down my machine, but I wanted to be very scary and airy, and that was, of course, the steenbok. Nothing stranger than a steenbok. Now, of course, as night sets, some very scary creatures, especially in this wet weather, are going to be out and about. Now we're going to go to complete darkness and the microscope. And now we are in complete darkness in the tent. Brian, I'm scared.
Me too.
Okay. Whoa, look at that. So there we go. I'm using a UV light on a scorpion. And it is the same species of scorpion that stung James, Vitatus. And this one actually was found already expired in Brian's tent. Now, scorpions are one of the few animals that will actually come out in UV light, and they come out in this incredible colors, blues, greens, and other things. And now, there's a lot of different theories, but it's thought that mostly the scorpion's eyesight are able to pick up the UV light spectrum, so they are able to see each other. You see how it changes as you get a little bit further away. Now, when you're close, like we are with the microscope, oh, something just ran across the dead scorpion. They come out as quite blue, almost electric blue. But if we switch back to Brian's camera, they come out as luminous green. How cool is that? So depending on the distance of the UV light or how close you can zoom in, the scorpions can come out as different colors. And they do love to come out in this wet weather. Now, I think this is the first time we've ever gone dark in the tent. Only lots of little bugs running around. And we are getting to the last minute of the sunset safari. And what nefarious creatures will be out tonight? Snakes, scorpions, the Nkuhuma Pride, and hopefully Queen Karula will all be taking advantage of the darkness to catch whatever prey is out there. The killer bees will transform as darkness sets. Killer bees. Into some very happy people having some apple juice around the fire. Oh no fire tonight, but at least we'll be snug and warm after a wet day. Unfortunately, not as wet as everyone else, but we have thoroughly enjoyed the tent with you. Amazing elephant from the tent. Amazing elephant with Jamie. Great to catch up with Fangs Herd. And the Nkuhumas. No, they didn't do too much, but still great to see them. So join us tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari from the Killer Bees and the rest of Safari Live. Adieu.